step one, as always, will be to copy down your givens. And it's a good idea to label what you have. So we have FH and HJ are equal. Okay. The next step that I suggest is interpret your givens. Interpret your initial state. And there's nothing to interpret here. It's a statement that two things are equal. Okay. There's no statement to be interpreted, so we can move on to the next step, which is to introduce your end state elements. Okay, now, here's when we look at this end state, we need to introduce HJ. Is HJ in our proof already? Yeah, it's already in the proof, right? So we don't need to introduce it, it's already there. Now again, that's not to say that we're not going to use the relationship that HJ is equal to HI plus IJ, but it's already introduced. So let's skip that step for now and let's move on. Let's introduce FG and GH. Well, what do you notice about FG and GH? You could introduce them independently, right? They're both parts of a whole, but together, instead of having two different statements, we can combine them into one statement. And what would that one statement be that involves both of those? Celeste. Okay, so if we can introduce FG and GH in terms of the expressions that are already there, of which FH is, it would probably simplify what we're looking for. And so again, this is that relationship that the whole is equal to the sum of the parts, segment addition. And once you have this relationship, the only difference between the end state and statement 2 is we need to replace FH with HJ. Can we do that? Yeah. We can make the statement here that HJ is equal to FG plus GH. Now, could this be substitution? Is this an example of substitution? Is it an example of substitution only or substitution or transitive property? When you look at these two statements, are there two things that are equal to the same thing? Yeah, so that's transitive property. So this would be an example of transitive property or substitution. And so you do need to be able to make that distinction, because when you guys are answering proofs on the tests and even on the final, you're pretty much just going to identify the reasons that go along with statements that I give you. And so I'll provide the column of statements, and you'll just need to identify what reason justifies each of those. Laura? Substitution only is just replacing one thing with another. Transitive property means if you have two things that are equal to the same thing, then they're equal to each other. And so, again, transitive property is always an example of substitution. That's why it'll always be both.
So it can either be sub or
transitive and substitution. Yeah, yeah, Matt?
So on the third step, you didn't substitute the FG plus GH, substitute the HJ?
Yeah. So all I did is I took this HJ and I substituted it in for its equivalent FH.